Okay, pardon me, my mic was on mute. Okay, so I'll start once again. Welcome back to the Law Entrance YouTube channel and to another session of the Hindu analysis. Today is 10th of March. It's Monday and it's the start of a new week. And I hope you all have set your weekly goals and you are ready to crush this week as well. If you guys are here on the stream, can I have some responses in the chat box? If you are able to listen to me, hear me, see me, if everything is audible, can I have some responses? Anusha is here, Rishika is here. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the class. Chalo. Dog lover is here. Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, let's begin our discussion for the day. We'll start with looking at the agenda. Tejasvi is here. Good afternoon. I can see some new names in the class as well. So, welcome to the stream, guys. If you're watching this live for the very first time, my name is Govind Singh, and I usually do this on all days of the week, Monday to Friday, 3 p.m. Let's begin with the agenda of the day. So, how we go is we firstly decide that what are the 3, 4 topics which we are going to discuss in detail. Mostly these are editorial articles, some of them are news articles as well. Then we take an overview of the newspaper and see if there is anything else which we should focus upon. Then we do 3 new words of vocabulary for the day. So, the agenda for the day is this, and we have 3 topics. First is regarding the launch, or you could say the opening of a new national park in India, which is called the Madhav National Park. If any of you followed the news, can you guys tell me in which state has this national park been unveiled? Please let me know in the chat box very quickly. The second topic is an editorial article which is in line with the recently celebrated Women's Day. International Women's Day was on 8th of March. So belated best wishes of Women's Day to everyone once again. But yes, this editorial talks about the gender gap in higher judiciary. What do we mean by higher judiciary? The High Courts and the Supreme Court of India. So this highlights how there is still a big gender disparity in terms of selections, in terms of appointments, in terms of the numbers of men versus women, or you could say male judges versus female judges in these higher courts. And this article breaks down the systemic problems behind it, what could be the possible factors, what could be the reasons, and we'll discuss that. Then the third article is another interesting article which talks about semiconductor chip import. Now, semiconductors are devices which are used in a lot of electrical and electronic equipments, be it your laptops, be it your phones, be it your televisions, or even complex devices. They require semiconductors to operate. Now, unfortunately, India does not have manufacturing facilities for semiconductors. Multiple reasons behind that, we'll talk about that as well. But the thing is, as of now, we import most of our semiconductor chips from other countries like China, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and such other Asian countries where these semiconductor chips are found in abundance. Not found in abundance, manufactured in abundance, let's say that. And to reduce our reliance on the import of these semiconductor chips, we are trying to establish domestic facilities, domestic manufacturing centers where we can at least assemble and work to a little bit more extent towards development of semiconductor chips in India. So homemade indigenized semiconductor chips is what we are talking about in this article. These are the 3 which we are going to discuss in detail. Then we have vocabulary express, which means 3 new words of vocabulary for the day. So that's the agenda. We'll start without any further ado with a newspaper overview. So I'll share the newspaper with you guys very, very quickly. Yes, it's in MP. That's correct. Dog Lover gave me the right answer. It's in Madhya Pradesh. Good afternoon to everyone who has joined recently. Naini, Arshnur, SP, Yashashri. Welcome to the class, guys. चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का डिस्कशन. आई होप आई एम लाउड इनफ गाइस. एम आई क्लियरली ऑडिबल? क्योंकि आई एम नॉट इन द बेस्ट ऑफ हेल्थ एंड स्पिरिट्स टुडे, सो हो सकता है आवाज थोड़ी सी लो लग रही हो आज, बट आई होप आई एम ऑडिबल टू एवरीवन. कैन आई हैव अ वेरी क्विक yes in the chat box, or should I be louder? Yes, no in the chat box. Audible? Okay, perfect. ठीक है. Thank you for confirming. Let's start our discussion. So, सबसे पहले protest continue in Manipur women block vital highway. Kangpokpi and Chura Chandpur districts affected as Kukizo people protest again. Free movement planned. State budget to be tabled again. So, This is all in line with the recent events which have been happening for the past few months. And recently we saw that president rule was imposed, shutdowns were imposed, and recently things started stabilizing with the armed forces and with the government working together with these tribals to restore peace and stability and ensure free movement of vehicles through the national highways which pass through Manipur. So that is what the free movement plan is about, opening up of national highways. But these Kuki people, people of the Kuki tribes, have blocked these national highways, saying that our demands are still not met and clashes are still going on. So we won't be allowing this highway to be open. So that is the news. Nothing more to elaborate on that. Gutsy India edges past New Zealand to claim ICC Champions Trophy. So this was something which happened yesterday. On Sunday, we had finals of the ICC Champions Trophy versus New Zealand. New Zealand made some 250 odd runs. India chased it. It was going smoothly at the start, but then there were a few hiccups. But we managed to chase the target and won the Champions Trophy after 12 years. The last Champions Trophy was won in 2013 under MS Dhoni's captaincy. Okay, moving ahead, delimitation. DMK ministers, MPs to visit 7 states to muster support. With 7 states, the southern 7 states, basically Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, Odisha, and multiple other states. States basically which are against the process of delimitation. And delimitation is an exercise which happens around the census, and I've already explained this multiple times in previous classes, so I won't go into the depth of it, but मैं आपको बहुत surface level बता देता हूँ कि delimitation से आप recalibrate करते हो कि एक constituency जहाँ पे पीपल वोट कितनी बड़ी होनी चाहिए एंड कितना रिप्रेजेंटेशन होना चाहिए. सो पॉपुलेशन प्लेज अ वेरी बिग फैक्टर हियर. जितनी ज्यादा पॉपुलेशन उतनी ज्यादा कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज, इसका मतलब उस स्टेट के पास उतनी ज्यादा लोकसभा सीट्स, एंड जितनी ज्यादा लोकसभा सीट्स मतलब उतनी ज्यादा पार्लियामेंट में उस स्टेट के पास पावर टू सपोर्ट अ बिल और मूव अगेंस्ट अ बिल. That is what the delimitation is all about, and ये exercise अभी होने वाली है. So the southern states are protesting against it because वहां पे पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ उतना स्टीपली नहीं हुआ जितना नदर्न स्टेट्स में हुआ है. सो दे फियर कि उनका रिप्रेजेंटेशन in the parliament would suffer because of this delimitation exercise. That is the crux of the matter. Although our Home Minister Amit Shah ji recently said that the southern states would not be affected negatively by this delimitation exercise, but the states are still very conscious about it. Dhankar stable at AIMS after chest pain. So we're talking about Jagdeep Dhankar, who's our vice president. He was recently admitted to AIMS after chest pain, but he's stable now. Okay. Moving ahead, Madhav National Park in MP becomes India's 58th tiger reserve to get more big cats soon. Currently, यहाँ पे 5 tigers हैं. 2 of them are cubs. 3 of them are adult tigers. On 3 adults में से भी there are 2 females, 1 male. And this is a new national park which has opened up in MP under the Project Tiger. We'll talk more about it in detail when we come back to the analysis part. But abhi ke liye, you guys tell me in the chat box which was the first national park of India, the first designated national park of India. आप लोग मुझे बताओ. रेस्क्यू टीम कवर्स 1 बॉडी फ्रॉम तेलंगाना टनल. दिस वाज द तेलंगाना टनल डिजास्टर जहाँ पे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन चल रहा था. We're down to city based news. City news is not that important for us, so we'll skip right past it. State news mein we'll skip all the politics and crime related news, so this is not important for us. Politics not important, crime based not important. Then 50,000 for girl, cow for boy. TDP MPs promised gifts for women on birth of 3rd child. So TDP stands for Telugu Desam Party. तेलंगाना की एक पार्टी है ये, एंड यहाँ के एमपी हैं ये कली सेट्टी अपला नायडू. एंड उन्होंने बोला 50,000 देंगे फॉर एवरी 3rd child who turns out to be a baby girl in his Lok Sabha constituency, which is Vizianagaram in Andhra Pradesh. Pardon me, not Telangana. This is Andhra Pradesh. Okay, rover jathedars not important. Man beaten to death not relevant for us. Villagers face displacement as Odisha government revives tiger introduction plan in Satkosia reserve. So Satkosia is also a tiger reserve in Odisha, and as a part of that effort, villagers are being moved from that particular area because वहाँ पे उनको designated tiger territory बनानी है. So this 90 acres of land which is filled with concrete houses and unpaved roads is in stark contrast to the lush greenery of the previous home in Toluca village on the edge of Satkosia Tiger Reserve. So basically इनको move किया जा रहा है from their village to another place and they are not happy about it obviously. पढ़ सकते हो आप लोग ये आर्टिकल, उतना ज़्यादा रेलिवेंट नहीं है हमारे लिए, बट यू कैन रीड इट फॉर योर ओन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. Pinnery Karat take aim at Center for Partisan and Cruel Approach towards Kerala. This is politics, not important. Lookout notice, Falcon CMD, not important. This you can skip. Education plus article. Okay, so we are down to the editorial section. The empowerment of India's women with bold policies. Now we discussed a similar article of this nature in the previous Hindu analysis, which happened on Friday. We were talking about the various government schemes which were launched to support women and make everything more gender inclusive, to be precise. Now, this article is on a similar line, which talks about various government initiatives. It primarily talks about the sanitation related initiatives, then also goes on to talk about the inclusive initiatives which help women increase their participation in business and all of those things. So मैं आपको gist दे देता हूँ इस article की. They talk about on sanitation and clean water missions. So for sanitation, the primary mission was the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which was launched by PM Modi on 2nd October, I think 2014. And yeah, it was 2014. So this was an initiative to essentially increase cleanliness in the country, and it saw massive participation from people, and it also included creation of toilets so that open defecation can be controlled to a great extent, and it was quite successful as well in that process. Another thing which is mentioned in this article, which was a major contributing factor towards women participating more in the workforce or getting better facilities, was the Jal Jeevan Mission, JJM. यहाँ पे कहीं पे लिखा होगा. Yeah, here it is. Building on the SBM, which is Swachh Bharat Mission success, the Jal Jeevan Mission was introduced to ensure safe and reliable drinking water access to every household. इस मिशन से पहले सिर्फ 17% of rural households had tap water connections, and after this mission over 150 million households now have tap water, helping to lighten the daily burdens that women face, which was to go and fetch for water to faraway places. And it says that इसकी वजह से 7.4% increase हुआ है in women's participation in agriculture and allied work in states like Bihar and Jharkhand, जहाँ पे female labor force participation वैसे भी कम रहता है. And they also talked about how between 27 and 23, the workforce jumped from 26.4 to 41.5, and JJM was a key factor behind that. They say government-led policies have transformed women's access to sanitation, clean water, financial inclusion, and entrepreneurship. The focus should not be on sustaining this momentum which we have gained. उसके बाद ये लोग काफी सारे women-led entrepreneurship schemes को भी highlight करते हैं. To talk about how a lot of startups are now having at least one female director, because this was necessitated under the Companies Act Amendment of 2013. पिछली बार भी हम इसकी बात कर रहे थे कि under the Companies Act, if a company has to go public, then they necessarily have to have at least one women director on the board of directors. And then they also talk about the Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, which is sort of a loan scheme for entrepreneurs, and how it has helped in creating more women entrepreneurs. They talk about the Startup India scheme. They talk about the BharatNet scheme, which is to provide internet access. They talk about the PM Vani scheme, which is to provide Wi-Fi access to villages. यहाँ पे लिखा होगा कहीं तो. हाँ, high-speed internet to almost 2 lakh villages and 2,14,000 gram panchayats, with so many hotspots established, which are giving women greater access to banking services, e-commerce, business opportunities. Then they talk about the Jan Dhan Yojana, which was to open up bank accounts. So under that, 300 million bank accounts have been opened for women, fostering financial independence and inclusion in the economy. Then they talk about the government e-marketplace, the GEM portal, where women entrepreneurs now make up 8% of total seller base. And they talk about MSME contracts. They talk about the Girja Devi Jan Kalyan Samiti by MP, which is a self-help group. So multiple such initiatives related to bringing women to the business forefront. Then they talk about women's representation in governance, how that has increased. 33% reservation for women in legislative bodies has redefined the corridors of power. And they talk about similar things, how women's participation is increasing in STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and sports to governance and entrepreneurship. Women make up 43% of STEM graduates now, which are contributing to the technical force. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Focus should be now on sustaining the momentum. Is that what they're saying? So this essentially sums up how far we have come in terms of women development, women empowerment, women inclusivity, which is a good step in the right progress. I hope we take longer strides in the future. On the left hand side, you have an article which says building capacities India can gain from accelerated trade diplomacy in Europe. Now, this is in line with the recent meeting which Jaishankar has been conducting with various European diplomats, and also in context with a security breach which happened in London, I believe. And they're saying that how India should work towards increasing its diplomacy with Europe now that Trump has increased so many sanctions, and how geopolitics is shifting to a great extent. They're talking about FTA. So FTA basically stands for a free trade agreement, that आप पे अगर आप उस कंट्री के साथ ट्रेड करते हो तो आप पे टैरिफ्स नहीं लगते, आप पे टैक्सेस बहुत कम लगते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट अ फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट इज. एंड दे आर सेइंग दैट वी शुड एस्टैब्लिश फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स with as many European countries as possible, along with our bilateral trade agreements. So they're saying the FTA talks India UK have restarted this month, and India EU will benefit from India's more conciliatory position on import duties with US, which have been a sticking point for them as well. Now, this is in line with the recent whole Trump controversy which has been happening. I don't know if you guys were following it or not, but India ने बोला है कि हम अपने टैरिफ्स को रिवाइज करेंगे यूएस के लिए, एंड यूएस ने भी बहुत तगड़े टैरिफ्स लगा दिए अब इंडियन प्रोडक्ट्स पे. सो दे आर सेइंग कि यूरोप भी इन टैरिफ्स के कम होने का वेट कर रहा था, एंड दिस वुड बेनिफिट the trade relationship between India and European Union as well. So that's pretty much it. They talk about the whole context behind Trump, Zelensky, and all of those things. You can read this up. Then below this is an article which talks about second chance. Iran has reason to be wary of Trump's dialogue proposal. Now, Trump has again, taken forward a proposal where they want to work together with Iran. But why they should be wary of Trump's dialogue proposal? For that, you need to know a little bit of history. So there was a thing called Iran nuclear deal, which was also called as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And President Trump withdrew US from its agreement. So हुआ क्या कि Iran planned to conduct nuclear tests and become a nuclear power and all of that stuff. And US ने उस पर बहुत सारे sanctions लगा दिए कि आप ये नहीं कर सकते ऐसे वैसा. And फिर बाद में talks happened and they said कि अच्छा ठीक है अगर आपको करना है तो you have to follow these particular guidelines and rules and all of those stuff. And Iran reluctantly agreed कि ठीक है follow कर लेंगे भाई, जैसा आप बोल रहे हो जैसा आप बोलो सरकार. तो उसके बाद जब everything was sorted out, then when Trump came to power, when his first term started, he withdrew from that agreement, even though Iran was fully compliant with the terms. And then he adopted his maximum pressure policy, aimed at forcing Iran to renegotiate the deal, a move which Tehran rebuffed. मतलब it was not happy with it. Tehran here मतलब Iran का capital है Tehran. And last week he sent a letter to Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, asking him to reopen dialogue on or risk military action. While the letter's details are still private, it took only 2 days for the Iranian leader to reject the outreach. He says some bullying governments insist on talks, not to resolve the issue but to impose their deals. Iran's reaction is not entirely surprising. 2013 mein Tehran had taken Barack Obama's overtures quite seriously. Khamenei had fully backed the Hassan Rouhani, who was the previous leader of Iran, his bid to negotiate with the West, and they had reached a result-oriented agreement which cut Iran's path towards nuclear weapons in return of lifting of international sanctions. Now, when the American leader who demolished the functional agreement reaches out to them, Iranians are skeptical for obvious reasons. So that is what it is. 2018 में ट्रम्प ने इन पे बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर बना दिया, and फिर रिलेशनशिप गॉट मेस्ड अप, एंड फिर रिसेंटली अभी जो चीज़ें हुई with all the Hamas and Israel controversy, that is another reason which is creating a rift between them, because if you guys are aware, Iran was supporting Hezbollah, which was against Israel and supporting the Palestinians. Not exactly Palestinians, more supporting the Hamas group, which was creating issues between Palestinians and the Israelis. So the thing is that Israel is being supported by US, and that by default makes US a enemy of Iran because Iran is supporting the other party. So वो वाली भी चीजें हैं जिस वजह से they are not really very keen on working with US and Donald Trump. So that is what the article is about. ठीक है. Then India, Mauritius, and a visit to deepen long-standing ties. So recently, Modi ji would be visiting Mauritius, and it would be a celebration of deep and long-standing ties between the two countries. Mauritius has always been a good trading partner and diplomatic partner of India. काफ़ी सारी हिंदू पॉपुलेशन एंड हिंदू डायस्पोरा प्रेजेंट है मॉरिशियस में एंड अ लॉट ऑफ कल्चरल ओवरलैप एज वेल. सो उसी की बात हुई है यहाँ पे. स्ट्रॉन्ग लिंक ऑफ हिस्ट्री, हाउ इट कैन बी अ बिजनेस गेट अवे एंड हाउ इट इज क्रूशियल फॉर इंडियाज मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी बिकॉज मॉरिशियस ऑल्सो लाइज इन द इंडियन ओशन रीजन. सो अभी इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ डिकोड करने का है नहीं इस आर्टिकल में. इट वुड मेक मोर सेंस व्हेन वी are concluded with this particular meeting on 11 and 12 March when we have substantial you could say outcomes of the meeting, then we'll discuss this. अभी के लिए आप इसको पढ़ सकते हो कि ईरान और ईरान नहीं, इंडिया और मॉरिशस के टाइज कैसे रहे हैं historically. Then we come down to an opinion piece which talks about closing the gender gap in higher judiciary. This we'll talk about in detail. I gave you a little brief about it when we started discussing. We'll have a discussion on this, why there is a gender gap in the higher judiciary. And we'll also talk about this article in detail, which talks about semiconductor chips and how India is targeting a local production. So they say how in financial year 24, total value of monolithic integrated circuits, जिसको हम शॉर्ट में ICs भी कहते हैं, import was 1.05 lakh crore, a 2000% increase as compared to financial year 16. और भी बहुत सारे नंबर्स मेंशन है इस आर्टिकल में जो मैं आपको ब्रीफली बता दूंगा कि उनके क्या क्या इम्पैक्ट है. Moving forward, what does NEP 2020 state about languages? This we have discussed so many times, so I'm not going to spend more time on it. So have we discussed this article as well. Unique electoral ID numbers being duplicated. We have discussed both of these issues multiple times, I think 2-3 times now. You can visit the previous sessions if you want to see the discussions on them, because doing the same articles again and again would not be the best use of time. How scammers use Gen AI and this is not important for us. I mean, for your GK, you can read this. GK as in for your own understanding, you can read this. But from a competitive POV, not important. Amid protest, LG orders probe into Kathua killings. This is crime-based news, not important. Okay, nothing important here. Nothing important here. Hindu temple vandalized in US with anti-India graffiti. Congress pitches for GST 2.0. Okay, not important. This is all politics. You can skip this. Having our own AI models is vital for our demography. This we have discussed multiple times. First rear fuselage for LCA Mk1A manufactured by Indian private sector handed over to HAL, which is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Okay. So this is LCA means light combat aircraft, which is Tejas Mk1A, and rear fuselage is a part which is used in it, and private sector has manufactured it, Alpha Tocol Engineering Services, and it was handed over to HAL. So that's pretty much it. So one liner. Okay, let's see what else we got. Frequent traveler, this is not important. More than 1,000 killed in Syrian communal clashes. So Syria में फिर से communal clashes start हो गए हैं, and वहाँ के जो interim president हैं Jolani, he has called for peace following the clashes between forces linked to new Islamist rulers and fighters from dethroned President Bashar al-Assad's Alawite community. So इनके जो ये previous president थे Bashar al-Assad, इनका rule अब खत्म हो गया है. तो इस वजह से सीरिया में काफी ज़्यादा instability आ गई है, and communal clashes have started up. Civilians are losing lives. On the other hand, Israel strike Gaza ahead of ceasefire talks with Hamas. So grim situations in both these countries. China military warns of tightening news around Taiwan. Okay, Nepal's former king arrives in Kathmandu. Okay. Sports we have already done on the front page. Champions Trophy we have won. This is Women's Premier League. RCB might not qualify for the playoffs this time. Last year they were the champions. Djokovic crashes out, Alcaraz sails through. This is the Indian Wells ATP Masters tournament. Not important for us. Okay. Road ahead for India's middle child. Middle child here is being referred to describe the ODI format, the one day international 50 overs. Because the elder child is like the test matches, and the youngest child are the T20Is. So middle child is one days. And उसका future क्या है? And they say that its future positive लग रहा है, looking at the response which the champion trophy got. It's better late than never. Everything has come together now, says Arvind. So Arvind is a upcoming chess player for India, making good progress. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of the newspaper discussion for the day. Let's come back to the three articles which we are going to discuss in detail. So I'll just share that tab. Yes, Jim Corbett is the correct answer in the chat box. I just read it. Yes, Andhra Pradesh Party, TDP. My bad there. Okay, so talking about the three articles which we are going to discuss: Madhav National Park, gender gap in higher judiciary, and semiconductor chip import. So let's start discussing the first one, which is about the Madhav National Park. So we were discussing this is in MP. MP में कौन सी जगह पे? Shivpuri district में this park has been opened up, and this would be the ninth park for Madhya Pradesh. So Madhya Pradesh already is famous for its tiger reserves. काफी सारे हैं वहाँ पे, कान्हा है, बांधवगढ़ है, बहुत सारे हैं MP में tiger reserve. This would be the ninth national park for MP as a state and 58th for India as a country. These are two important numbers you need to remember. उसके अलावा this is in Shivpuri district, which is in the Chambal region of MP, and currently मैंने आपको बताया इसमें कितने tigers हैं. Currently there are 5 tigers in this national park, 3 adult tigers and 2 baby cub tigers, and out of these 3, 2 are females, 1 are male. Although ये आपसे CLAT में पूछेंगे नहीं, but just for the detail मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ. Now this initiative was launched under a specific project which was launched for tiger conservation, and the name of that project is Project Tiger. Project Tiger comes under NTCA. Project Tiger under NTCA, which is the National Tiger Conservation Authority, which comes under the Wildlife Protection Act, which comes under the Ministry of Environment. So that is the hierarchy. Ministry of Environment के अंदर आपका एक्ट आता है, एक्ट के अंदर आपकी ये बॉडी आती है, नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी, एंड उस अथॉरिटी के थ्रू दिस प्रोजेक्ट इज बीइंग कंडक्टेड, व्हिच इज अ सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम. सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम का मतलब होता है सेंटर वुड प्रोवाइड सम पार्ट ऑफ द फंडिंग and the state government would provide the remaining part of the funding. So they also in this article mention how the tiger population has grown in the country. They say कि 20th century के end तक, यानी कि when 2000 the year 2000 started, तब तक 20,000 से लेके 40,000 टाइगर्स लगभग थे हमारी कंट्री में, and that was great progress since Project Tiger started. Because जब पहला सेंसस हुआ था टाइगर्स का, the counting which happened in 1972, the population of tigers in 1972 was close to 1800 tigers. So they were almost on the verge of being extinct. Extinct मतलब इंडिया से गायब होने वाले थे tigers. That would have been a very embarrassing situation because tiger, especially the Royal Bengal tiger, is the national animal of India. इसका scientific name है Panthera tigris, जो आपको पता होना चाहिए. And after the launch of Panthera tigris, after the launch of Project Tiger, this number has grown substantially and the conservation efforts have been quite successful. ये जो Project Tiger था, ये start भी Jim Corbett National Park से हुआ था, which is in Uttarakhand, in 1973. ठीक है, तब Project Tiger की start हुआ 1973. ये भी आपको पता होना चाहिए. Project Tiger started in 1973 from Jim Corbett National Park. अब नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी के बारे में मैं आपको बता रहा था कि इट कम्स अंडर द वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, एंड 2005 में ये बॉडी एस्टैब्लिश हुई थी, द एनटीसीए, द नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी. एंड इसके अंदर टाइगर रिजर्व्स ऑफ इंडिया आर गवर्न, डिसाइड होता है कि कितनी बाउंड्रीज, कितना फॉरेस्ट कवर रखा जाएगा टाइगर्स के लिए. ऑल ऑफ दोज थिंग्स आर डिसाइडेड बाय द एनटीसीए, व्हिच वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन 2005. ठीक है, तो ये कुछ डिटेल्स हैं जो आपको पता होनी चाहिए अगर इस पे क्वेश्चन आता है तो. Let's move to the next article, which is closing the gender gap in higher judiciary. Now, this is a very interesting article. And if you are a person who's aspiring to be a judge, and especially if you are a woman or a female aspiring to be a judge, then this is an article which you should definitely read, because this author, who is Supreme Court senior advocate herself, the name is, let me check the name, wait a second, Mrs. Kothari. So Mrs. Kothari says that women in law have, made some major progress over the last few years, last few decades, I would say. And since women entered the field of law with the first women lawyer, Cornelia Sorabji, when she started her practice in 1924, Cornelia Sorabji, 1924. So since then, women have started entering the field of law and have started becoming lawyers and advocates and judges and all of those things. But when you look at the numbers of women who have been able to go to higher judiciary, that means judges of high courts and supreme courts, that number is quite low, significantly low. So they give you a lot of statistics in this particular article. They say how the share of women judges in high courts is just 14.27%, and to put it in numbers, that is just 109 judges out of 700 something odd judges, comes out to be 14 point something percent, which is quite a low number. And when you talk about the Supreme Court, this number is even more grim. सो हाई कोर्ट्स में ये लोग ये आर्टिकल आपको और भी चीजें बताता है कि जैसे देर आर 8 सच हाई कोर्ट्स इन द कंट्री वेयर देर आर just one women judge in the entire high court, and there are certain high courts जहाँ पे there is no women judge. For example, high courts of Uttarakhand, high court of Meghalaya, high court of Tripura, they have no female judges in the bench. And it also talk about the Allahabad High Court, which is the largest high court of India with the largest strength of judges, जहाँ पे 79 judges हैं in the Allahabad High Court, but वहाँ पे female judges कितनी हैं? वहाँ पे female judges सिर्फ 3 हैं, which is just 2% of the entire number. So they say that it's not just about the disproportionately low number of women in high courts. It's also about their appointment. It's also about how they are appointed by men. It's also about the discrimination or the subtle, non-inclusion of women because of them being looked at with inferiority as compared to men. They also give you stats about the ages at which women become appointed as high court judges. So for men, that average age is 51.8 years. कि men अगर 51.8 years पे averagely high court के judge बन रहे हैं, तो women के लिए that age is also higher. 53 years की seniority उनको complete करनी पड़ रही, 53 years of age to become a high court judge. एंड इस वजह से बहुत सारी women do not reach these positions of senior hierarchy of high court judges and supreme court judges. एंड अगर आप चीफ जस्टिस की बात करो, जो हाई कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस होते हैं, तो आउट ऑफ द 25 हाई कोर्ट्स इन इंडिया एज ऑफ नाउ, सिर्फ एक हाई कोर्ट है जहाँ पे एक विमेन चीफ जस्टिस है, विच इज द गुजरात हाई कोर्ट. ठीक है. एंड देन दे ऑल्सो गो ऑन टू टॉक अबाउट द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. कैन एनीवन टेल मी अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कितनी फीमेल जजेस हैं एट प्रेजेंट? How many female judges in the Supreme Court of India? Okay. Yes, Ashnur, thank you for reminding me. I'll reply to the messages. SP says 2. That's correct. Can you name them? The names are Justice Bela Trivedi and Justice B.V. Nagratna. So Justice Bela is going to retire this year in June 2025, which would leave just one woman as Supreme Court judge in the entire setup of the Supreme Court. The top court would just be remaining with one judge, and the last women judge which was appointed was back in 2021. And uske baad se 28 judges have been appointed to Supreme Court, and not a single one of them has been a woman. So since the past 28 appointments, no woman has been elevated to the Supreme Court as a judge. And when you talk about the last 75 years, जो एक provision होता है where the Supreme Court collegium, if they think that a particular lawyer from the bar is so qualified, so eligible, that they can directly be made a Supreme Court judge. So that is a process that a senior advocate can directly be appointed as a Supreme Court judge if the collegium thinks so. And this under this process, 9 men till date in the history of Supreme Court have been elevated to the Supreme Court, and in 9 men, only one has been a woman. Only one woman has been elevated directly from the bar to the court. So that is also where numbers are stacked very, opposed to the women. And iske justifications is not, just not appointing women. It's also about, they say, I mean, the collegium says that their justification is कि इतने eligible women candidates ही नहीं है, इतनी eligible women नहीं है जिनके पास seniority नहीं है, या फिर women judges बनना नहीं चाहती. These are the excuses which are given by the authorities, by the collegiums. But the author argues that this is not the true case. This is just a case of inequality and discrimination. And they're saying that this is a deep rooted systemic inequality where women are seen to be inferior in the legal profession as compared to men, and how women lawyers nominated for the position of judges face a lot of scrutiny, face a lot of disappointment in terms of competing on merit. Women always are required to prove their merit. Men are not usually required to prove their merit to that great of an extent. And then she also goes on to challenge the collegium system, saying that the collegium system works in a very mysterious, opaque, and non-transparent manner. We don't know कि what is the process which they follow, कितना merit को weightage दिया जाता है, कितना seniority को weightage दिया जाता है, what is the criteria of choosing a judge which is followed by the collegium. There is no mechanism which is available as of now. And this lack of transparency also works against women, because the collegium is mostly made up of men because of the sheer numbers of male judges, and no effort is taken to push forward women as judges. And it's not just about the collegium जब नाम recommend करता भी है meritorious women judges के, तो government उनको approve नहीं करती, confirmation नहीं देती government उनको. So it's not just the collegium which is at fault. It is the whole fabric which has been created in the past few decades, which is very anti women. That is what she's arguing. She's saying that since 2020, 9 women's names were recommended by the collegium for appointment to the High Court, and they were not confirmed. Most of them were rejected. So they are saying that इसके काफी सारे solutions हो सकते हैं. पहला solution is making the process of the collegium very transparent with clear criteria कि ये criteria अगर आप fulfill करोगे तो आपका appointment होगा as judges. That would ensure a better standard of integrity and meritocracy. Second is they are saying that they should focus more on gender diversity, gender inclusion, and that would bring in more of women to the forefront. It would include more inclusiveness and less of impartiality. Lastly, she also says that we need to ensure that women's appointment to the Supreme Court and High Court should be normalized. एक्स्ट्रॉर्डनरी नहीं लगना चाहिए. मतलब अभी जैसे अगर कोई फीमेल अपॉइंट होती है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में एज अ जज, तो इट बिकम्स न्यूज कि फीमेल जज वाज एलिवेटेड टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट और बिकेम अ हाई कोर्ट जज और हाई कोर्ट चीफ जस्टिस. इट शुड नॉट बी न्यूज. इट शुड बी as simple as a male becoming a high court judge or a Supreme Court judge. It should not be glorified because of the gender, and that stigma should be taken away. That is what she argues. So very excellent points made in this particular article, very nuanced article. Coming to the third and the last article of the day, as imports of semiconductor chips rise, India eyes local production. Now, what is this all about? So semiconductors, as I was telling you, are very key components in terms of development of electronic and electrical devices, and India does not have the infrastructure to manufacture semiconductors as of now, so we import most of them. अब रिसेंटली जनवरी में एक समिट हुई थी वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम की, जहाँ पे हमारे इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी मिनिस्टर अश्विनी वैष्णव जी भी गए थे, और वहां पे उन्होंने अनाउंस किया कि इंडिया वुड बी मेकिंग इट्स फर्स्ट डोमेस्टिकली मैन्युफैक्चर्ड सेमीकंडक्टर चिप विच वुड बी रोल्ड आउट दिस ईयर इटसेल्फ. तो डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन बढ़ाने की इन्होंने बात करी, एंड दे आर सेइंग दैट 5 सच मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटीज आर बीइंग एस्टैब्लिश्ड अक्रॉस इंडिया. एक टाटा बना रहा है, एक ढोलेरा सेमीकंडक्टर फैसिलिटी बन रही है विच इज विद अ ताइवान बेस्ड फर्म, and they've also launched a program in 2021 which was called the Semicon India program. मैं यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ, Semicon, which is short for semiconductor, of course. Semicon India program was launched in 2021 to make India more sustained and less reliant on imports of semiconductors, and to develop the semiconductor and related ecosystem around it. When you talk about the import reliance, last के कुछ years में और last कुछ decades में we have been very reliant on countries like China. China तो in fact 1/3 of our imports देता है हमें in terms of semiconductors. इसमें काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. There are integrated circuits जिनको हम short में ICs कहते हैं. आपने अगर कभी रिपेयर कराया हो अपना टीवी या लैपटॉप या फोन जिसकी अगर स्क्रीन या डिस्प्ले वगैरह खराब हो गई तो कई बार कहते हैं ना आईसी उड़ गई है या आईसी खराब हो गई. तो दोज आर बेसिकली सर्किट्स. देन उसके अलावा देर आर मेमोरी बेस्ड सर्किट्स एज वेल. जैसे आपका रैम होता है, लैपटॉप की रैम होती है, फोन की रैम होती है, एसएसडीज होती हैं, तो वो मेमोरी बेस्ड सर्किट्स होते हैं जिनको नॉन वॉलेटाइल मेमोरी चिप्स एंड वॉलेटाइल मेमोरी चिप्स कहते हैं. बट उतना टेक्निकलिटी में आपको जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. द क्रक्स ऑफ दिस आर्टिकल इज कि ये जो चिप्स हैं इनका इंपोर्ट जो है बाय थाउजेंड्स ऑफ मल्टीपल टाइम्स, मतलब टाइम्स तो नहीं, परसेंटेज वाइज 4000%, 2000% इस तरीके से बढ़ रहा है व्हेन यू कंपेयर द लास्ट डेकेड विद दिस पर्टिकुलर डेकेड. फाइनेंशियल ईयर 16 और 24 के कंपैरिजंस इन्होंने दिए कि मेमोरी चिप्स जो हैं 4500% इंक्रीज हो गया उनका इंपोर्ट. फिर जो ऑडियो इक्विपमेंट्स हैं, वायरलेस इक्विपमेंट्स हैं, उनका 48% हो गया है. देन बाकी सारे भी और काफ़ी सारे नंबर्स यहाँ पे दिए हुए हैं. एंड देयर सेइंग कि जो हम टोटल इंपोर्ट करते हैं उसका 2% हिस्सा सिर्फ सेमीकंडक्टर्स का इंपोर्ट होता है, 2.09% टू बी प्रिसाइज. एंड फाइनेंशियल ईयर 16 में ये सिर्फ 0.19% हुआ करता था. व्हाट does that tell you? That tells you that semiconductor का usage बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है in the past decade. And China, as I said, was the major supplier throughout these years. 1/3 of our import value was coming through China. Other countries were Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan. These were also supplying semiconductors to India. तो अब जो है इंडिया में we are planning to at least have a facility where we can assemble, test and package those things. अभी हमारे पास डिजाइन करने वाली टेक्नोलॉजीज नहीं है, अभी हमारे पास वो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी, वो पेटेंटेड टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है, ना हमारे पास अभी सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल्स हैं. वो एक चलो अपने अपने आप में एक इशू है बिकॉज ऑफ सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल्स में भी रिक्वायरमेंट होती है कुछ स्पेसिफिक मिनरल्स की जो हमारी कंट्री में उतने अबंडेंस में नहीं है. सो देयर इज ज्योग्राफी इन्वॉल्व्ड इन दैट एज वेल. बट पॉइंट है कि अभी हमारे पास उतनी कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है कि हम अपने सेमीकंडक्टर्स को डिजाइन कर पाए, खुद उसमें इनोवेशन कर पाए. व्हाट वी कैन डू इज एटलीस्ट रिड्यूस आवर रिलायंस on assembly of semiconductors, testing of semiconductors, packaging of semiconductors. At least कुछ part of the whole supply chain हम अपने control में ले पाए. That is what this article is arguing for. And to support that they give you numbers कि इतना इतना परसेंट ये आपका increase हो गया semiconductor पे reliance and semiconductor का imports. ठीक है, that's pretty much it about this article. And that brings us to the end of the analysis. Vocab कर लेते हैं आज की. The first word is absolve, which means to set someone free from a guilt. किसी को ऐसा मुक्ति दे देना. Acquit, exonerate और vindicate are synonyms. Antonyms are incriminate, accuse और charge. They agree to absolve us from our obligation. ठीक है, छुट्टी दे देना, मुक्ति दे देना किसी जिम्मेदारी से, किसी guilt से. That is what absolve means. Then the next word is inveigh. Inveigh means to complain, to express dissatisfaction, pain or resentment, usually tiresomely. Complain or whine are synonyms. Rejoice, delight are antonyms. A lot of his writings inveigh against luxury and riches, which means complain against luxury and riches. Maladroit. Maladroit का simply मतलब होता है inefficient या clumsy, bungling, awkward, inept. Antonyms are dexterous or skilled. The young man's maladroit remarks about the hostess embarrassed everyone at the party. So maladroit means someone who's inefficient or clumsy or awkward. Inveigh means complaining, expressing dissatisfaction, and absolve means setting someone free from blame, guilt, or responsibility. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion, guys. Thank you so much for participating. I hope this was a valuable discussion. And I'll see you all once again tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. Till then, take care, keep learning, keep preparing. Bye-bye. Signing off.